Hello, this is my response to the first technical challenge for PAD 750, specifically the case of Michelle Carter, a woman who encouraged her boyfriend to commit suicide. She was convicted of involuntary manslaughter. Before I begin, I want to just give a few definitions that I feel are relevant to the case. The first definition is manslaughter. Manslaughter is a crime of killing another human being unlawfully but unintentionally. The second definition I want to give is the case of first impression. This is a case of a question or interpretation of a law as presented, which has never arisen before in any reported case. So in the case of Michelle Carter, the reason she was convicted of involuntary manslaughter was she was sending texts to her boyfriend encouraging him to commit suicide. This was throughout their relationship. Apparently they only met 5 times in person, but the day of his death she encouraged him to die, and this was not just a one-time incident. There was reported for months, if not years, of her saying that he should commit suicide. So her conviction was a case of first impression where never before had the court dealt with a case or given down a decision of a conviction for someone who had committed suicide, but the person who encouraged them to commit suicide was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter. So based on what my readings of this case shows is that arguably you can make a case that she was part of his death. It was not a one-time situation when her saying he should commit suicide. It seems like it was intended to get a certain result, which was for his death. Evidence shows that she was researching a character on Glee whose boyfriend had died and was in some ways seeking sympathy for it. There's likely mental health issues involved in this case. However, the results, regardless, ended up in Conrad Roy, the victim, dying. So I feel that in this situation, yes, the law needed to be interpreted in a different way. I feel that in many cases, the way that our modern technology works, many of the laws that are already statutes are on the books do not account for the increase or rapid expansion of technology. Another case that was brought up was the People versus Victor Garcia. In this case, he was convicted of having burglar tools, but the tools that he had weren't the traditional tools of a lockpick or a tiny pickpocket knife in order to break into someone's house. What he did have was a cell phone connected to an antenna, and he was using that to eavesdrop on people, perhaps to find financial records or maybe spying. This is a new type of law, another law of first impression, but if you look at it from the perspective of the judge and the prosecutor, his goals were to steal. So even though the technology he was using, which was just a cell phone, an antenna, and seeking radio waves, might have been advanced beyond the original statute or beyond what the creators of the law originally pictured, it didn't take away from the fact that his goals were to burglar or burgle items and information from others. So it does make sense, to me at least, based off those definitions, that the law would have to change. Perhaps in the future new laws can be made that fit within the framework of this new technology. It's a challenge for legislators. But until then, this will be put on the books. I agree fully with the decision. I believe that in the case of Michelle Carter, is a little bit more stretched due to the fact that there's arguably mental health issues as well. You have to question her mindset in the belief that did it feel more real than the various other times that he said that he was going to commit suicide? Was this a situation of a sick game that they had? Also, I'm actually interested that Massachusetts didn't mention the fact that they do not have a Good Samaritan law. Based on that, maybe you could argue that even if she thought this was real, there was no indication that she had to stop it. At best, their laws are set up that if someone was to be at risk, or in danger, someone couldn't be sued for helping them. There's no law in the book that says you have to help somebody. However, morally, of course, this is disgusting, pushing someone to commit suicide. But legally, you can make an argument that she was not in the wrong. However, once again, we are at the point where we're trying to do laws of first impression. Based on those definitions, it could be involuntary manslaughter. For example, if I have a vehicle and I don't push my brake on when I leave out of it and it rolls down a hill, for example, and it hits somebody, and you could prove that it was negligent on my part, like I knew the brakes didn't work, I knew that I was on a hill, I didn't push the handbrake in order to make sure the vehicle didn't roll, and then negligently left the vehicle, you can make especially if this wasn't the first time I left the vehicle and it had rolled prior, that would be seen as a case of involuntary manslaughter. So was her pushing him to commit suicide, knowing that he had perhaps attempted suicide before, not following that same framework? I personally think it does. So it's an interesting case, but in the end, I believe that the decision was the right decision. Thank you.